no completion. Hello, and welcome to the Retro Video Game Podcast of Two Consoles Too Late. I'm the host, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. What does that mean? Here at this podcast, we look at the classics and the not-so-classics of retro video gaming, often for the very first time, and with no nostalgia. But here on episode 162, we're not looking at a game, we're having a conversation on Between the Headphones with content creator Gamer Ahmer. She's a fellow Marylander who is a collector and also the co-host of the live stream video podcast, The Game Masters. And over on Auction Alert, we're going to take a look at some retro video game consoles over on the Shop Goodwills. And at the end of the podcast, we're going to do a retro roundup of what have I been doing, what have I been playing, what have I been buying, what have I been selling, and all that. But before we do all that, let's jump right into the podcast and do some Going Long.
Going long.
It is going long. Looking long.
Going long.
It is going long. Looking long.
So my guest, Gamer Ahmer, did a video on her channel where she went to Vault Video Games up in Hanover, PA. And after seeing that video, I decided to follow suit. So, lest it not be said that Gamer Ahmer is not an influencer because she influenced this podcaster to take a 1 hour drive up into the hills of Pennsylvania to Pretzel Country and check out a retro video game store. I did make a video for that. I think it's on my YouTube. I'm going to try to get it over to the Patreon, but I'm just not that tech savvy. Anyway, so I made a video. It's not as good as hers, definitely. But I did go up to Vault Video Games, and I picked up some long box games. I picked up a copy of Tekken and a copy of Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. So I added another baseball game to the long box collection. Tekken, the case was cracked, so it is one of many cases that's going to have to be replaced in the long box collection. That's a $200 investment, and I think I'm going to put that off until I have completed the collection, because that is quite a project. But anyway, I picked up Tekken and Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. Now, I could have picked up a lot more, so you can check that out on the video on my YouTubes. Now, I also acquired a copy of WrestleMania, the arcade game from the Shop Goodwills. I got that for like a shade under $30, which is a pretty good price. I think Price Charting has that game around... Once again, I'm always sort of quoting Price Charting off the cuff. I'm like, it's like 40 or 50 bucks, right? Because they're all just like 40 or 50 bucks, right? But anyway, I picked up a copy of WrestleMania, the arcade game. And from the eBays, I picked up a copy of A-Train. And if you want to see me play these wonderful long box games, you can every Saturday morning at 7:30 a.m. Head on over to the YouTubes or Twitch at Two Consoles Too Late, where I do a live stream of a game from the PS1 long box collection. This past live stream, I played Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. I was hoping it would be better, like one of the better baseball games in the long box collection, but alas, it was not. I didn't get my ass kicked in this one, but I didn't do very well. I played as the Orioles against, I think it was the Cleveland Indians. Whenever I play the baseball games, I always play as the Orioles against whoever they're playing at the moment. And this being, baseball season, I think they were playing the Cleveland Guardians. I kind of messed it up earlier, and I said the Cleveland Indians, which is, they are no longer. But in the game, they're the Indians. Anyway, so I did a live stream of Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball. And it looks like Triple Play 97 is still the best game in the PS1 long box collection if you want to play a baseball game. But this Saturday, I think I'm going to do Loaded, a game that I've had in the collection for quite some time and just haven't gotten around to. I was going to do A-Train, a live stream of A-Train, but I think that, no pun intended, that game's going to be kind of boring. because it's like SimCity. It's just sort of point and click and build a railroad and whatnot. The manual for that game, my God, that is quite the tome. It's got some heft to it. So there's going to be a bit of a learning curve with A Train. I'm not going to do a live stream of A Train, and I want to pick up a mouse for the PlayStation because A Train you can use the mouse. XCOM, that was a point and clicky kind of game. You could use a mouse, and Discworld, a game I don't have in the collection yet, that is a point and click adventure. So, real quick, 7:30 a.m. Twitch, YouTube, two consoles too late live stream. Check it out. All right, so before we jump into the meat and potatoes of my conversation with Gamer Ahmer, let me just do a brief introduction and a thank you. Gamer Ahmer, also known as Brandy, she's been collecting for over 8 years, and you can see all of this over on her YouTube channel at the Gamer Ahmer. She's been collecting for over 8 years. She has an awesome collection of over 300 video game systems, 7,500 physical games, 22 kiosks, 6 arcade machines, 100 standee displays, signs, lights, and etc. Basically, if it's video game related, she probably has it. She's very much an avid collector, and her content is wonderful. It's genuine. She's just sharing her journey. She grew up with this stuff, and it's her passion. And it was awesome to have a conversation with her. And I would like to say thank you. Because content creators, I can't pay the people that come on this podcast, and they take their time to come onto my podcast and have a conversation. And I can't thank her enough. So let's jump right into this on Between the Headphones. We're talking with Gamer Ahmer. So let me, I guess, preface this with how I came to you and your content. I did the Video Game Summit back in 2024, and that was organized by Todd Freeman. You know him?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
crazy.
anyway, yeah. So he shared a link of yours, and I clicked on it, and you've got wonderful content. So I, followed and subscribed,
I
and
appreciate it.
yeah, so we've been having sort of a back and forth, and then I find out you're in Maryland too. It's a small world.
Yes, definitely a small world. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, one thing I like about your content is it's original and it's genuine. You're definitely an avid collector. I mean, your collection is mind blowing, I would say.
Just a
How
little
long
bit.
how long have you been collecting?
Um, so all right, I've always played video games growing up, but like a lot of people, most of the time when you get different consoles, you just end up not really being able to keep all of that stuff over the years, and you have to sell things to get other things and all that. So a lot of people go through that. And that's what happened to me. Like I would trade in systems for the next console and sell games at little yard sales trying to get more money to buy like the next new thing. And I would say that back in like 2015 or so, I like rediscovered my love for like retro gaming. Like I wanted to play all those games that I had as a kid. I wanted to rebuy all that stuff over again. I guess like, when you get into like your serious career and you start making a little extra money, you just, go a little crazy. And I stumbled into a flea market and started buying things from my past. And then I actually found my childhood Nintendo 64, the Jungle Green one, and I found my copy of Donkey Kong 64 and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. And then my cousins gave me some of their childhood games and consoles. And next thing you know, that's how a collection begins. And then I just started buying anything and everything, and that's literally what I did.
Yeah. Well, so you did a recent video where you went to Vault Video Games up in Hanover.
Yes.
And yeah, so I had no idea that they even existed. And after seeing your video, I was like, well, I have to check this out. So I made a little road trip up there, and wow, I don't think I've ever been to a retro video game store that had quite the selection that they did.
Yeah, they told me that they have like over like 30 some thousand physical games in store. And they're always buying stuff. I mean, he's a great guy. Like every time I go in there, we always just chat about anything and everything, and I always find some items to leave, with like ones that I don't have, and I see them at like conventions and stuff like that. So it's always a good time, and my buddy actually introduced me, to that store as well. And it's crazy because when you just learn about something, you want to share it and have more people go to those places and support them.
Yeah, I got lucky. I only spent $100, but I could have easily spent a lot more in that store. I'm in the
Yeah.
process. Yeah, I'm in the process of collecting the PS1 long box collection,
Okay.
and I only walked out with 2 games, and I could have walked out with way more. But I'm trying to keep it to a budget, as it were. I think that we're lucky here, I guess, in Maryland that we
Hmm.
have a lot of choices for, I guess, retro video game stores.
Yes.
Um, there's so many to talk about. There's Regen in Towson, Time Warp, Ellicott City,
Hmm.
Retro Replay in Bel Air. I mean, so within an hour, I mean, we we can be at a retro video game store and pretty much find what we're looking for as long as it's not too niche.
Yeah, that's something that I really enjoy too, and especially if you don't mind just like a little hour or two drive, like you can hit the surrounding states. There's so many in Virginia and Pennsylvania and Delaware. Like there's just so much any which way that you look at it. And then there's so many toy stores too, so like vintage toy stores, and a lot of them carry video games, and sometimes they don't really like hone in on the crazy prices. Like they might just get games in and it's not their expertise, and they're just looking to get rid of those games pretty quick. So you never know when you might stumble into something.
I think it's crazy. Like, you can go into antique stores now, and when you think of antiques, you think vases and whatnots. But then now we're starting to see video games, and I don't know whether they're technically antiques, but I mean, like the PS1 long box collection, all those games are 30 years old. So um, it's it's a weird world.
Yeah, I hate to break it, but we are getting older, and I always joke with my buddies. I'm like, well, we are old. Some of us a little older, but it is crazy to think about because when you're like a little kid and you go into antique stores, you're seeing like stuff from like the 1800s or whatever. And now it's like now you're seeing things that you grew up with as a kid at some of these antique stores. I guess because they realize just because it is a little bit older, they could still make money on it, and people think to just bring that old stuff to those places. So why would you turn it away?
So another one of your posts, once again, wonderful content, absolutely genuine, highly recommend it. It was like a retrospective of all the kiosks that you've acquired. I thought that was brilliant. Why kiosks?
So what had happened was, you know how like when you just start discovering more things, so way back in the day, I think like after 2015, I would say, like when I like started collecting a lot of games and systems, it's like, what else? What else do I want to find? But then you go on Facebook and you start joining all these groups. So there's like a kiosk and display collective group or something on there. And there were some original groups that are no longer on there anymore. But you start seeing like these weird things. Like people have kiosks and they have store displays and they have cardboard standees and they have all this cool promotional stuff that was essentially like thrown out or like lost in time. And I would go on Craigslist and I would see this stuff for sale, and I was like, I really need like a Sega cabinet. Do I need like these original store displays? And then, for 50 bucks, $100 or whatever it was like back in the day, I guess like 10 years ago at this point, it's like I bought a few and then I was hooked. And then I like networked and I met people local and they were getting rid of some of their duplicates. And the next thing you know, I'm collecting signs and lights and just weird little items that I never thought I'd ever own. And then it just became a thing. Like I started finding more and more. Like the more I looked, the more I found. And I found them for great deals. Like I'm not paying like thousands of dollars like they're worth. I'm getting them for like mere pennies in comparison. And then next thing you know, I'm decorating a game room. I'm building the ultimate game room and I'm putting like these Nintendo 64 lights up and people are, saying how cool that looks and then it just, just fuels the fire. Like you just keep collecting more and more. So I wanted to do like a little throwback post and I went through my phone because I was, of course when you start running out of like space, you're going through things. I was like, "Oh, I remember when I found this." And then I started seeing me like real happy in these pictures and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to post the throwback." And I was like, "I'm making the same face in a lot of these. Like I must have been really happy that day."
So I guess as a collector, one of my big questions is, do you have like it's kind of a standard question. What do you have like a holy grail? I mean, like the one thing in your collection that you just have wanted for years and you just haven't quite found?
Um, I always say that and then I always find the items. It's obviously like the really really expensive items that like I just know I can't outright buy or afford. Like I guess like more kiosks. Like I'd love a Vectrex kiosk or I'd love like a Pokemon Snap station kiosk, like from Blockbuster. I've had chances to like buy some of these in the past, and they just always seem to either sell to someone else right before, or like Sonic the Hedgehog. I love like a Sonic the Hedgehog original like store display statue, or something of that nature that's like over $10,000, and I just don't want to pay something like that for these items. I want to try and find them for a deal.
Right. I mean, my personal holy grails are rather small and limited. And one of my holy grails was Twilight Princess for the GameCube. And I don't know why I want that was my grail because I had the Wii U version, which is HD. It's it's better graphically. It's the same exact game, but I acquired Twilight Princess recently, and I've been playing it and live streaming it. And there's like I wouldn't say like a bit of a letdown. It's like okay, I've got it now. It was you have all this expectation, and there's I don't know to acquire a grail. Like, do you ever experience sort of a letdown like that? Like I've wanted this for so long. Now that I have it, it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like human nature, like we hype things up and then when you get them, it's like you just have that sense of like, all right, well, what now? And it's like you already got that. Like when I complete certain sets, like that happened to me at one point with the Nintendo 64. I was like, all right, I got the North American full library of the games. This was like years ago before a lot of them went up. And then I was like, what next? And then I was like, let me get all of the Nintendo 64 console variants and then the controller variants and then go for a worldwide set of games and then get more displays. And it's like never ending type of thing. Like I only have 7 more Japanese N64 games for a worldwide set, like of completion. And it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like super crazy and I just like go way ambitious. So then I just like I keep making these tasks and goals and then I just keep pushing through them. And I don't know, like I think now like I just realized that like I just love it and I think this stuff is like meant to be shared and experienced and now I don't think of any like I try not to think of things as all right, what next? Because now I'm seeing that there's so much out there and I'm learning different things every day and I'm experiencing different games and just going through different things and just trying to have a good time with it.
Yeah, that's gonna happen with me. I think when I get all 102 PS1 long box games, there's gonna be a moment of what do I do now?
Yep.
But I'm trying to live stream them. I do a live stream every Saturday because I do actually want to play the games and try them.
Yes.
Most of those games are launch games and they're not very good, but uh, there is a moment in collecting where it's like, okay, do I have enough? What's next? And I've never considered myself a video game collector, but now that I'm actually,
Mhm.
curating the long box collection, I can't avoid that title anymore.
Yeah, I think when you get over like a handful of games, I think at some point you just start to become a collector. Like it's not like we set out to be collectors. I think at some point when you just have a lot of stuff, you're like, all right, you're a collector. It's like, no, I'm still like a gamer too. It's just you can buy a little bit faster and more than you can actually play though.
This one question. So you and Steve from Tech Buzz, you have a live stream podcast on Wednesday nights, and you
Yes.
guys make this constant joke about your bathroom, and I'm always kind of scratching my head. What's that all about?
Um, so one day I was in this Hulu episode. It's Impact by ABC News's Nightline. It's like by Impact or something. They came to my house and they filmed my collection for a little segment on technology and retro video games and like nostalgia and things like that. And I told them, whatever you guys do, don't film the bathroom in the basement because I store a lot of my video game stuff in there because it's an extra bathroom. And like, I mean, it's just me and someone else. Like, I don't need four bathrooms. Like, that's a little. I wish I had an extra bedroom or two, you know? It's like I grew up in a house where we all shared one bathroom. Like, it's totally fine. And in the basement, I had like all this like cardboard displays and things just like in the bathtub behind the shower curtain. Like, don't look. And they filmed it. They had to film it because when I said don't do it, it's like, oh, that would be funny. And I was like, all right. And they shared that clip in that little like video, and then it became like a running joke. Like, what else do you have in that bathtub? Do you have more games? Do you put stuff in there? Or, oh, you're buying it to stick it in the bathtub? Like, and then I just joke, and now it's like, that's like the bathtub of Narnia. Like, you put stuff in there, and it just equals out, and then you can keep filling it up with more and more stuff. And it's like out of sight, out of mind the second that you close the curtain. Like, it looks like a normal room, and everyone jokes, and they're like, "Oh, you're a hoarder," and that's when you need an intervention. And we have a good laugh with it because apparently other people do that too. They store things in weird places. Like I have games in my laundry room. And other people do it too. So now it's just funny.
That is a great story. Can we find that video online?
I'm sure there
Okay.
has to be like a clip of it. I think he might have did a short, the guy that came out and was, filming all that, but I'm sure there has to be something of it. And then at the very end of our podcast, we do like an end credit scene, and I'm like, it's like you're doing like the Ferris Bueller thing, like, oh, go home. What are you guys doing here? And then I'm like putting something else in the bathtub and closing the curtain. And it's just like a funny little tidbit because you actually see like my real bathroom with real storage in the tub.
Okay, so now, all right, now it all comes together because I kept listening. I was like, what is up with this bathroom thing? All right, well, thank you for answering that. So here we have some quick fire questions, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
All right. Well, the first one's, I think it's pretty easy, but I'll ask it anyway. What are your thoughts on physical versus digital media, especially now?
Obviously, I'm like physical all the way. It's a crazy world that we're going into, and I get people do things out of convenience and all that, but I love the ownership, the physical media. It's like it feels like your money is actually going further. Like you get to look at these items. They're not just, one single like thing. It's like artwork, it's history, it's just so much more. It's like the memories, the nostalgia. Like that's why I love all this stuff. It just wouldn't be as fun if I had a digital collection and nothing to, show for it.
Yeah, it's especially with the Switch 2, pretty much everything's going to digital release. And I haven't played Silk Song, the sequel to Hollow Knight, simply because there isn't a physical release. And I don't think it's going to get a physical release, and if they do, it's probably going to be like some sort of limited run thing. But that's sort of an obstacle I've been sort of experiencing, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's because of my age. It's just I expect to have a physical game, and that's going away, and it's just a brave new world.
Hmm.
All right, next question: what is your favorite video game controller?
Um, that's always like a hard one, I guess. I guess I feel really comfortable with like the PlayStation 2 controller from back in the day. Now, back then, I really didn't see that much of an issue with the Nintendo 64 controller. I know that's like everyone's worst one. Um, but back as a kid, I think I just like adapted and I played the games and I never complained about the weird shaped controller. But now I love Retro Fighters. Their Brawler 64 controller, like it's super comfortable in your hands. When you're playing some of those games and they make some of those clunky controllers like just they feel nice. But I feel like the PS2 is one that just it always feels comfortable. And then as I'm playing, PlayStation stuff, it fits pretty well in my hands and it is pretty comfortable.
I'm in full agreement there. I think PS2, PS3 are
Hmm.
definitely my favorite controllers. I misaligned the Atari Jaguar controller. I did a podcast a couple years ago, and I said, "Oh, that's an ugly controller." And then once I actually got my hands on it, I was like, it's not that bad. I mean, it's a little confusing because it looks like a calculator and whatnot, but
Hmm.
um, the Xbox 360, that's always a popular answer here at the podcast. But I'm glad to see that someone else has love for the PS2. All right, and lastly, Miss Gamer Ahmer, what is your favorite soft drink?
I love sweet tea. Something about it. I could drink sweet tea for every meal. Like it's great. And even unsweetened tea. I've been on an unsweet tea kick recently and as long as it's cold. I think any drink has to be cold and that is great for me.
Yeah, I think McDonald's sweet tea is just too sweet for my tastes.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's like a whole gallon of sugar in that little cup.
So where can we find you?
I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm just I feel like I'm always all over the place, but I'm across the board at all the different socials. So I post pretty much every day on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, even X. I just post a lot of different content, shorts, long form, and then me and my buddy, the Tech Buzz Gaming, we do our podcast, The Game Masters. We do that every Wednesday night live. So you could certainly catch us there and come on into the chat and we answer everyone's, comments and questions and stuff as we can, throughout the show. And it's just a good time. We like to have fun and we joke and yeah, we sure crack jokes with each other and give each other a hard time over, bathtub storage to being old, just going through it all. And then we like to go to different conventions throughout the year, and then I go to different video game stores and toy stores and stuff as well. So just
Yeah.
all over.
Do you guys have any conventions coming up?
Our next one is going to be I think it's like the first weekend or so in June. It is Korgs. So it's Columbus, Ohio Retro Gaming Society, I believe. And it's in Columbus, Ohio. And it is I'm trying to see what date it's going to be. No, it's like the first weekend. Okay, so it's June 6th and 7th at the Ohio Expo Center. So me and him will be out there doing the Game Masters. I think we're going to do like a live podcast and just tons of content and everything coming your way.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll definitely be checking out more episodes of the Game Masters and your wonderful content, especially from a fellow Marylander.
Very cool. I appreciate that. That's so nice of you to have me on here and, going through with the difficult schedules and stuff like that. I really do appreciate it.
So thank you and namaste once again to Gamer Ahmer for coming here on the podcast and talking about video game collecting. I'll put a link in the show notes to her channel. Be sure to check out her content. It's wonderful. Once again, she's all over the socials. Mainly, I follow her on YouTube and Instagram. We did have a bit of a, I like to keep the episodes here at Two Consoles below an hour. You can check out a bonus conversation over at the Patreon at patreon.com/2consoles2late. And we talk a little bit more about local retro video game stores, so be sure to check that out. But Brandy said that she was a collector of the Nintendo 64. And there's a certain Nintendo 64 over on the Shop Goodwills that caught my eye on Auction Alert.
Auction alert.
So over on the Shop Goodwills, we have a bunch of retro video game consoles that caught my eye, but one console I think that caught my eye and would have caught Gamer Ahmer's eye is a Nintendo 64 Control Deck console NUS001 untested. Now, why would it have caught the eye of a collector such as Gamer Ahmer? Because it's not just any N64. It is the Funtastic Grape N64, and it has the Funtastic Grape controller. Now, this is coming from the Evergreen Goodwill. And if anyone knows my ongoing saga with that Goodwill, I'll briefly talk about it here. I acquired some PS1 long box cases when I thought I was getting games, and the refund process took quite a while. So I am not a fan of this Goodwill.
Stick it.
So anyway, I'm going to take this Goodwill to task once more. Yes, it is, I guess, a sought-after console, but the console itself in the pictures, it's really dirty. It's covered in dust. The wires are all over the place. It's just like they threw the thing down, took a couple pictures, and that was it. There's a game in the console. You don't know what the game is. And then when you read the listing, it says it's for parts are not working. Now, this Goodwill, whenever they sell a console, I guess they do absolutely no testing because everything goes out untested or for parts are not working. That's where I got my PS2 from because it was untested for parts are not working, and it worked just fine. So if you want a Funtastic Grape N64, you can get one from the Evergreen Goodwill. There's 11 hours left on this auction. It's got 15 bids, and it's up to $221. And another retro video game console is coming from the Goodwill of Central and Coastal Virginia. That's Virginia Beach. Right now, with 12 hours and 3 minutes left on this auction with 12 bids, it's up to $258.23. It is a Sega Saturn system, a video game console with games. But what they don't say in the title is that it comes with the box and all the little inserts and a playable demo of Panzer Dragoon. So right now, this is going off at $258. This would be a wonderful addition to a collector if you collect for the Sega Saturn. A couple weeks ago, I ran into a gentleman who was wearing a Neo Geo shirt, and I commented that that was a nice shirt because when it comes to retro video games, it takes one to know one. And he seemed to know a lot about the Neo Geo and told me all about the wonderful fighting games for the Neo Geo that can be had and how I could emulate the Neo Geo. Now, full disclaimer here at the podcast, I know nothing about the Neo Geo. I have no desire to get a Neo Geo. And I can only name maybe 2 games for the Neo Geo. And here we are. It's quite relevant now because it has been announced that they are releasing a retro console, Neo Geo AES Plus. Now, me being 2 consoles, I actually had to go over to the Googles and find out what AES meant. And it means Advanced Entertainment System. But the Neo Geo retro console is all over the YouTubes and the podcastiverse. And suddenly everyone is an expert on the Neo Geo.
Stick it.
I am not. So anyway, here on the Shop Goodwills, serendipitously from the Goodwill of Orange County is an original Neo Geo X Gold limited edition console with the box. With 3 days and 18 hours left on this auction with 12 bids, it's up to $351. So if you want the original and not this re-release, they can be had on the Shop Goodwills. Okay, we're running a little long in the tooth here at the podcast, so let me just wrap this up. The last auction on the Shop Goodwills is a Nintendo Switch 2 video game console that is tested, /working, /parts, /repair. Now, which one is it? Well, it's working because your first picture shows it running Mario Kart World. I have to take this Goodwill to task. It's the Memphis Goodwill Incorporated. This is the first Bob I've seen loose. on the shop Goodwills. It was only a matter of time. So if you want a loose bob with 5 days, 13 hours left on this auction, it's got 12 bids. It's already up to $301. So for my money, I would just spend the extra $100 and just get a new one. But the bob is loose. Bob is loose and in the wild. And what have I been playing here at Two Consoles Too Late? I've been playing some Twilight Princess for the GameCube. Play that like once or twice a week, and I've been live streaming that over on the YouTubes. Still remains my favorite Zelda game. Why is Breath of the Wild not my favorite Zelda game? Because that game is completely different from any Zelda experience you've ever had. Anyway, so yeah, I've been playing Twilight Princess. I've also been playing Alundra, an action RPG for the PS1. Now, I thought I could have that game done in like 12 to 15 hours. That is not the case. That game is proven to be at least 30 hours. So I'm hoping that I could have that game wrapped up in 2 weeks, but I'm not making any promises, so I might have to shift over to the Sega Genesis and try out James Pond, a game that's it's always been on my radar because as a kid I was a fan of James Bond, and I had a Sega Genesis, and then they had this side-scrolling, spoofy-looking game about a fish who's a secret agent, and so I think I'm finally going to get around to that one. It gets talked a lot on the Retro Hour podcast across the pond over in jolly old England. And what have I been selling? I sold the crap copy of Starblade Alpha on the eBays. I only got $75 for it, and I was hoping for more, but I mean, given the condition that thing was in, I was happy to get that. So the first copy of Starblade Alpha was pretty much a loss. So lesson learned, right? And what have I been buying? Well, I didn't buy this, but I recently acquired a giant collection of VHS tapes I saw on Facebook Marketplace. Someone in my neighborhood was just giving them away. And I thought, all right, I'll check this out. And it was this huge like U-Haul box of VHS tapes. And I started, playing them. And I was looking for commercials. And some of these cassettes have commercials. And one of the cassettes, it was a bunch of Christmas cartoons, but it was taped from cable at the time in 1995. And there was commercials for the Sega Saturn on there. And my heart was aglow with all the nostalgia. I don't have any nostalgia for those commercials. I just thought it was kind of cool to like find these commercials on these VHS tapes. So I'm slowly in the process of digitizing some of these commercials that I'm finding on these VHS tapes. You can check it out over on the YouTubes at Two Consoles Too Late. I created a playlist of digitized commercials from the 90s. All right, thank you for listening to the podcast. I have been the host, Jackson Keebler. And thank you once again to Gamer Ahmer for coming here on the podcast and jazzing all things retro video games and collecting. Be sure to check out the links in the show notes. You can find me on the interwebs. Just go to Google and type in Two Consoles Too Late, and there I will be. And be sure to check out the Patreon and my bonus conversation with Gamer Ahmer talking about retro video games in Maryland. And if you support the podcast monetarily, I'll send you lots of goodies, a signed typewritten postcard from me, as well as a Miracle of Save States magnet. Yes. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for listening. And as always, have a good one. I love you, and goodbye. All right, so let's wrap up here. What have I been doing? What have I been buying? What have I been playing? What have I been selling? God damn it, cat.